people's belief that we're able to heal ourselves, and your body knows what it wants to heal, and so we'll offer something up during the healing. Yeah.
Others? Gary, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Let's see. Well, I just would like to say that, I never really, I wondered ever since I was a little kid about the unseen world and where do people go when they die and that kind of thing. But I never really had particular intuition. How many of y'all have intuition that you feel like is, you notice works pretty well? Like you think of somebody to show up, or yeah.
They don't like saying that when I'm looking. Maybe I should.
Right. I had that a little bit, intuition, like we all do. But where does that information come from? That intuition, have you ever thought, where does that come from? Like, so I wondered, where does it come from? And then a few years ago, I studied with this African medicine man named Malidoma Some, and he taught that our ancestors, when they pass on, they don't go away. They stay here, and their only job is to help us live the great life that we were born to live, and to live a life with purpose and joy. And they're here to help us in concrete ways. And I really love that idea. I love the poetry of it. And so he taught us how to do these cowrie shell divinations on this. We made this mat with colors on it that had different African gods on it, and then this big pile of shells and coins and rocks. And then the person that I was divining would be here, and they would move this big pile in 3 times in one direction, and then depending on where on the mat the different objects landed, in the fire section or the mountain section or the water section or the earth section, I could read something about their lives. I could tell them about their lives, like where their strengths are, maybe where they're having some difficulties right now, but what resources that they have to help them in their life. And so right away I was able to help people make powerful change in their life. And so I was thinking, well, where is that from? I'm just learning how to do this. And so I just thought, well, it's the ancestors, because that's what I was learning. And so, but as I did that a bit for people and was having really good results, I wondered, I was feeling it, the information in my body. You know how some of y'all are visual learners primarily, and some of them you hear best, and some of them you're kinesthetic, you feel it in your body. I was getting this information in my body. It's sort of hard to explain, and then stories would come out of that. And I just started saying, well, is there some way for this information to come in more clearly or more louder, or see it in pictures or hear it? And then I ran into, to make a long story short, I found this place in New York, Western New York, called Lilydale, New York, where a lot of mediums live. And these are people that speak to the spirits, and they teach you how to tune it in. And so I started going up there and working with them, and that's when it started, coming in more strong. I started seeing things, and I still don't hear things, but so anyway, I'm sort of on this roller coaster ride that 2 years ago I would have never thought that I would be here. I mean, I was in the coffee business, for Christ's sake, but anyway, it's fun. I'm enjoying it, and just seeing where it leads, and so trying to share it with people and to have some fun with it. So just to give you an idea of how this came about for me.
Anna.
Okay,
Our
so
builders room.
on the second part where you were sitting there, can you see people or ancestors and stuff?
I can. I have seen ancestors, and most often I see ancestors on one side or the other, like the mother's side or the father's side, but I don't get a lot of details about them. And I think that, because I'm still learning how this works, but sometimes I get very clear ancestors, and people recognize them. But sometimes I get vague figures, which I say, I'm seeing a woman, an old woman on your father's side. She's in your great-grandmother's row. And I don't really get a lot of details, but the people feel feel their great-grandmother, and they have these powerful experiences. You know, like this one woman said, well, I've been wanting to connect with my grandmother ever since I was a little girl. You know, she died when I was a little girl. And so it's really unusual. At first, when I started doing this, I was thinking, well, I got to come up with, you know, spirits and their names, and because some people do that who've been doing it for many years. But then I'm just trying to relax now more and just bring the information in, whether it's attached to figures that I see. Sometimes I see, again, the ancestors, but sometimes I see images like the carnival, and sometimes I see people, their early lives, what it was like. Sometimes I see past lives. And so I'm just trying to come up with the information however it turns out, and see what, rather than trying to force it into a, you know, a spirit, like seeing spirits. Yeah. Yes.
What does it mean you're getting good results? What does that mean?
Let's see. In reference to what?
Well, if you say you're seeing results, what kind of results are you seeing?
Oh, you mean with the readings?
Yeah.
People being inspired or empowered, moved in some way to take some new action in their life, or feeling some great, you know, satisfaction or joy maybe from having a connection with an ancestor that has shown up, that kind of thing. Or you know, getting guidance on their life, something that they've been wanting to do, but they've been afraid to step out and do it, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So because you saw the carnival, do you remember that? Like, do you know what he's talking about? Or is it, I mean, is that like, because you see it, does that mean that he's remembering it? Or like that like image flashed into his head? Or like, is that just something you pulled from him?
Sometimes the images, I feel like the images sometimes are personal for people, and they tell me that, but sometimes they just tell a story that I tell to the person to sort of illustrate something. Did the carnival, could you remember a carnival?
Oh man, I went to all kinds of carnivals when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I mean, what can you say about that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I lived down the street from the American Legion growing up.
Yeah.
They were all over the place,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, the Catholic carnivals all over town. I mean, I went to all kinds of them, and I mean, certainly there were times when what you said was the case. I mean, I certainly have experienced that, but for me, I mean, just to be on the other side of the issue, I mean, for me, I think a lot of people probably experience that,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think that's a common thing.
I know that you're a skeptic, Brian, and I celebrate that.
Oh yeah, man, that's why
I'm a
we're here.
skeptic, too.
Absolutely.
I am a skeptic too.
Yes, yes.
But did the carnival, that particular image touch you in any way?
Oh, I thought it was very appropriate. I mean, I thought it was very appropriate for the kind of lesson that you were imparting to me. Just sort of the way that it prompted me to be self-reflective, is very useful. And I think that since you do know me very well, and you know the kinds of demands that are on my time and stuff like that, I mean, it seemed to me to be a very appropriate thing. And I felt like it was good.
Okay, because, I mean, it could have been some other image that came up.
Oh, yeah, maybe so, right?
And so it makes me think that it came up for a reason besides just to tell the story. But I appreciate the question, because I never really thought of the other side of that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if he was had a thought about it, or something popped into his head, and then you just picked it up. I didn't know if that was
Right.
Well, and I think this is one of the things that Gary's trying to find out too, exactly how does this mechanism work?
How does it work?
And
where's it coming from?
Yeah. And this is a question that I wanted to ask you too, but does anybody else have a question before I ask my question? I just want to ask, maybe since we have a few more minutes, what is your feeling about imagination in this process? I mean, to what extent, when you're sitting down with each of us and imparting this information to us, to what extent should we, I would just like to know what you think about the process of imagination and all this. To what extent is it at play? So.
Yeah. I don't know. What portion is imagination? What portion is God or goddess? What portion is the ancestors? What portion is intuition, whatever that is? What portion is our higher self, or the what is it that cosmic consciousness? I think. Our brains are wanting to figure it out, and we'll just spend all day thinking, what is it? But ultimately, I don't think anybody's going to know. Maybe in 100 years we'll know when we are a lot wiser than we are now. But I feel like it doesn't really matter if it works.
Okay.
You know, if people are getting help, you know, healing, you know, guidance, if it inspires them or empowers them to step into their life in a different way, in a more powerful way, that's great. That's cool. You know, it doesn't really matter what it is. You know, but I know that years ago I did some past life regression therapy with this woman in Austin, Texas, and we did multiple days of it where she would hypnotize me, and I would go back and experience these past lives, and I learned the difference between imagination and something else then, because these lives or these images, and I'm not sure I believe in past lives, but there is something there in the past life scenario and this past life regression work that people do that is very powerful and can be very healing for people. Very powerful, and it was powerful for me. But it's different than imagination. You know, imagination is like an active part of my mind, I feel like, where I'm creating something, whereas other things come and they're not part of, they come from almost outside my mind.
And so for you, you can distinguish between something that comes from outside and something that you're imagining.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really goes to the question, because I'm not sure, I mean, I don't have that experience, and I don't know how many of us
Right.
do, so,
Right.
yeah, cool, okay. Last chance. You'll see him again individually, so.
Yeah, looking
Gary,
forward
thanks
to
for
it.
your
Thank you
time,
all.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.